Right now, we're about 400 million in revenue. Headcount is 300. We're one of the few profitable direct-to-consumer brands. We never raised venture capital. Our stores convert well north of 50% every single customer who comes in. When you're building a direct-to-consumer brand, the product has to speak for itself. At the end of the day, if you can't stand behind your product, the consumer eventually kind of figures it out that the product really isn't as authentic.
Ricky Joshi, I appreciate you hanging out, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah. No, good to be here. Nice to be at the offices and hang out and see where you actually do it.
Yeah, man. Well, we crossed paths in Austin, but I've been wanting to sit down and talk to you about your business journey because it's kind of a fun one, and I've just gotten bits and pieces over the course of social conversation in the last couple years.
Yeah, no, excited to be here, and let's dive into it, and it's been a fun ride for sure.
Love it. So you started Saatva more than 10 years ago, and just a couple bullets. So you are, and correct me if I get any of these wrong, but at least one of the largest direct-to-consumer mattress companies. You were Inc. 500 several times, one of the top 10 fastest growing retailers in the country. So far, so good?
Yeah, I think, we've gotten all those accolades along the way. So right now we're no longer the top 10. So I think at this level, it's, hard to get to beat that revenue
Keep
rate.
Keep the pace going.
But we're still growing in a down economy, which I think is pretty remarkable. So even though our category is down, we're still up. And I'd say, we're probably one of the few profitable direct-to-consumer brands that I think has come out. We never raised venture capital, which I think is
amazing,
really interesting. So we did a private equity round, but that was after about 8 years of being in business. So we got a pretty long way without any external raise. I think arguably one of the larger direct-to-consumer brands out there.
So let's, are you comfortable starting with numbers, revenue, headcount, where you're at right now?
Yeah. So right now we're about 400 million in revenue. Headcount is a moving target, about 300. We're actually about to potentially maybe add to that headcount in a significant way, which I can't talk about. So, a relatively lean company if you look at headcount versus revenue, but one that's growing in a down market and continues to do so, and has kind of had a really nice trajectory every year since day one, which was our first dollar.
I love that. So I like starting with revenue, as listeners know, because it establishes baseline credibility and gets attention. And there are a lot of people saying a lot of things, but I want to listen to the people that actually have done the things.
Yeah.
And I can have some credibility right away. But let's back all the way out. So you start.
It's interesting as you just to piggyback off that. In the beginning, there was a lot of companies who were out there raising a lot of money. And
in the mattress space,
in the mattress space particularly, we had a competitor, Casper, come in 2014. There's a lot of noise around some of our competitive brands, but one thing that continued to get us early press was our numbers, right? You can't lie with the numbers. At the end of the day, it was always something that we would leverage. And I think it shows that, the business and what it really is. And I think also getting there profitably and not having to externally raise has been kind of a hallmark of the company. Really operating an efficient, well-run business has been kind of the mantra from day one, very disciplined. So it's been good.
So, all right. So let's start at the beginning, because there are a couple things that I know too that are interesting, and I want to figure out how you did it, why you did it. But one of them is that you actually warehouse everything. You don't drop ship product. And that's unique and challenging. And it's its own business model, right? It's its own thing if you want to deal with that. Did you start that way? Give me the origin story and kind of how you came to creation here.
Yeah. Just to that note, basically, we really, to be honest, never really thought that the box product was, the ideal product for the customer. So this has been a customer-centric company from day one. We launched in 2011, one of the first direct-to-consumer brands. We predate Warby Parker. We predate, most of them except maybe Bonobos. And, better customer service was a huge part of what we wanted to accomplish when we set out on this journey. And we really felt that better customer service is synonymous with good product. And so we took the hard road. So we actually launched regionally. So we were in the Northeast Then we were in California. People would buy from Nebraska. Those were expensive deliveries. So we would really try to focus our AdWords and all of our acquisition models, towards places where we actually sold product. And we just kind of filled in the gaps. I think one kind of fun story is the fact that I had actually wasn't even on a Saatva when I first moved to Austin in late 2011. So we didn't have a facility here in Texas, any distribution or factory.
Crazy.
And so I kept waiting for the Texas launch. So I actually had a house with a bunch of other entrepreneurs, and I was actually sleeping on this like hand-me-down $99 mattress while I'm hawking this this great product that I had touched and felt when I was in New York. But, in the meantime, I'm sitting here, just like salivating all over all these great mattresses that I was not sleeping on until I finally got one. So, that's that.
So why'd you come to Austin if the company wasn't here, the product wasn't here?
Oh, the Austin thing was honestly, I'm part of a founding team. There are 4 of us who are pretty involved, still with the company. And basically, we're a bootstrap company, and, this was originally out of New York City. I actually come from the ad agency world, had an agency before Saatva. And, at that time, there wasn't really a big direct-to-consumer scene overall. Direct-to-consumer wasn't a word. That's like a 5-year-old phrase, by the way, or acronym. Wanted to kind of come to a city where I felt like there was a lot of talent, a lot of opportunity, lower cost of living, an opportunity to really build something. And I felt that there was a lot more friction in other places. So Austin just like kind of fit like a glove for on the business side, and on the fun side, we both live in Austin, and we know it's a good place to be.
No stranger to that.
Yeah, and I think the world now knows as well.
Yes, yeah, I think they found.
Yeah, they finally found out. Yeah.
Okay, so I know from talking to you that this was a deliberate move into the mattress space, or at least it sounds like that in retrospect. But why did you pick this space? And who was the founding team? How'd you guys get together? How'd that start?
Super interesting story. So came from the ad agency world, actually built up my own agency, which was a process unto itself. I was also kind of starting at the bottom, climbed up, we were a subcontractor to a subcontractor, became then a subcontractor, eventually ended up with our own agency of record clients. But I actually felt like the agency business for me particularly was, it was a little feast or famine. I wanted to build something where I wasn't client dependent, and that just I could really kind of press the gas and grow. So started flirting around with different internet marketing concepts and taking kind of my own people from my own team. So it's kind of funny. You start a skunkworks project, business out of your own business, right? It always kind of works like that. I always felt like you have to have one foot in, one foot out if you're going to embark on something new. Don't quit your day job while you start a new company. Let it kind of symbiotically happen. But anyway, so experimented with a couple different concepts, and actually met Ron, who is my business partner and CEO, actually thinking I was pitching him on growing his business at the time, which is Jennifer Furniture. So I wrote this huge presentation and kind of had a revenue model where we take a percentage of sales for growing the business. They weren't
as the ad agency,
as an ad agency. Yeah. So kind of went at it from the ad agency perspective, not on this skunkworks internet marketing thing I was doing on the side. Yeah. Working hours outside of my day job. But he came to me and says, no, I'm kind of done with this, done with Jennifer, done with the sofa bed space. He'd grown that, by the way, to about 200 stores, a little over 200. So wow, a lot of retail experience. And he said he wants to do this mattress thing. Ron had no idea of any of the dynamics of the internet. I don't even think he was aware what a blog was, but he had kind of production. He had, built the product, no brand, none of that. And I kind of went home and was super intrigued. I'm thinking this guy obviously has a great track record. He's built a pretty massive business. Mattresses is something I actually had thought about in the past. I've had some, if I can go on a whirlwind tangential thing, I've had some pretty funny experiences on my own with purchasing mattresses. So identified with the opportunity really well. So saw that there was a problem, went online, saw that the competition was really kind of selling a very expensive product the same way they almost currently do. Which is, a high ticket item with low customer service, confusing messaging, in a pretty mediocre environment with a pretty mediocre sales pitch and no real core values. So, you walk into a mattress firm today and, it looks like it's an Office Depot or something, and it's an expensive product. And, we felt that we could do better, obviously online. Now we have our own stores, but obviously online. And so we really brought, I think, a better experience and thought there was an opportunity to do better. And we did it. We launched regionally, got in, and the company just kind of grew and grew and grew. And we kept getting better at internet marketing and targeting our customers in really smart ways. And that's kind of the origination story.
Got it. So I have lots of questions there, but the one is just trajectory. So what was year 1, 2, 3 like? I mean, going in 10 years or 11 years to 400 is significant growth any way you want to look at it, right? There's a significant accelerating path there. What were the first few years like?
The first year, we went from $0 to $2 million, a lot of it on the backs of reviewers, affiliates, paid advertising in very direct ways. We were paying websites for a click. You don't see that much of that stuff anymore. I think the space has gotten a little more sophisticated, but we got to viability just through, I think, some pretty smart marketing. And as time went on, we just became more and more sophisticated. Second year was 5 million. Third year was 9.5 million. Fourth year, which I think is really interesting, is 28.7 million. Damn. And that's the year Casper got into market. So interestingly, when this is speaking on behalf of my personal opinion here, but I think we have a significantly superior product overall than a lot of the bed-in-a-box companies, just based on the lack of limitations on the actual distribution mechanism. It's hard to stuff a lot of quality, we feel like, in a box. So, a lot of these companies are kind of coming out there, raising a lot of awareness around online buying, around the mattress category. And we were kind of sitting there, saying, hey, we offer an alternative. So believe it or not, competition actually, I think, helped the company in a significant way. Also drove up our AdWords costs over time, but it also, brought a lot more people in market, and I think raised the viability of purchasing a mattress online. And now, it's so commonplace. It's pretty crazy to think that, 10 years ago, it was like 10% of the market. Now it's almost a third. So it's
wow.
It's pretty, it's been phenomenal growth.
Well, it's one of those products that everybody needs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of these huge segments. And so I would think that there would be, and there is, wild competition in the space. Was the differentiation, I mean, clearly D2C, being online direct to consumer, had a big part to do with it, but then you're reconditioning the marketplace to do it, right? You're reconditioning a buying behavior. And you mentioned that other competition coming in helped that, because it was like, oh no, you can do this, it's good. Was it differentiation in quality that you think allowed you to keep accelerating, or was it specifically your marketing tactics, or both?
I think it's both. I think, at the end of the day, when you're building a direct consumer brand, the product has to speak for itself. We're running around, being hyper targeted, evangelizing sort of, our value and our product. But at the end of the day, if you can't stand behind your product, I think the consumer eventually kind of figures it out. That the product really isn't as authentic. The other thing is, I think one thing that we've done, and we continue to do so, is really demonstrate value to the consumer. So we've always stood by this. You're getting an equivalent product that you would find, or better. It's honestly in many ways better. For example, use natural thistle instead of formaldehyde as a flame retardant, that most of our competition and most mattresses and mattress firm, little things like that, at every level. But at the what really ends up happening is value, I think, speaks to consumers. And by purchasing online, we really are a luxury product that's accessible. And part of the reason we're able to do that is because we're so efficient with marketing and smart with marketing. And even to this day, we now have 11 brick and mortar locations, and growing that rapidly, about to the tune of one every other month, about 8 a year. But we're doing it efficiently. instead of inefficiently. And I think that allows us, I think the fact that we're a better run business allows our consumers to really gain that and glean that value. And that's been a huge part of the story from the beginning. And I think a lot of other direct consumer brands kind of forget about the value part of the equation. We never have. And I think that's been core to who we are.
I think they forget about the efficiency part of it
and
too.
The efficiency part. Yeah, that's right. So value and efficiency.
Well, I want to talk about efficiency. I want to talk about both, but from an efficiency perspective, one of the things that I think is a consistent struggle for people through growth is the perceived necessity to balance those things. And a lot of people will lean heavy in the direction of growth, regardless of efficiency. And a lot of people will choke themselves out because they're trying to be too efficient and then they won't grow.
Right.
Do you feel like you had that balance through the whole path, or in year 1, 2, 3, where you just like, fuck it, let's grow and worry about the efficiency later? Or how did that work? I mean, I know when you're bootstrapped, you can only get so out of control with that stuff, but how do you think about that now versus then?
I think we're actually looser now a little bit because we're a bigger ship, right? So we have more dollars to kind of spend on brand building activities. So, now we do, we're on YouTube, we do video stuff we didn't do in the beginning. For example, just because those are less efficient, but they're great brand building sort of exercises. And there's a certain point where I think brand building is important. Yeah, actually at the beginning, we were really, really hyper efficient. And we grew that way. And I think that's through hyper targeting. So being really smart about our acquisition channels. I think one thing I've kind of seen is a lot of brands try to be one size fits all in terms of their marketing stack. So, they'll go and they'll talk about TikTok or as a big channel because it's something that's, kind of top of mind for consumers. But TikTok's not great for every brand. Some stuff has virality, other stuff just not as cool and not as TikTok worthy. And you might find, more traditional channels like paid search. The old boring stuff is something we've always sort of thought is very important to our category just because it's a considered purchase. So people are kind of coming on, most people who are in market for a mattress are aware that they're in market for a mattress. And so we tend to use that as our core. And everything from there is just kind of like additive. But that might not make sense for a different type of brand. There are other brands that I think, might have a lot more success, but it's not one size fits all. For example, I've always felt that, Instagram and Facebook are a little more on the impulse buy side versus Google AdWords, for example. That's great if you're a subscription product. It's great if you're a lower price product. It might not be as great for, a $2,000 AOV purchase. So it's just really depends. And I think that's why, again, you can't slice, the turkey with the same knife. So it's,
Yeah. So intent, right? So Google being somebody is there with the intent of a search. I mean, that's the core of that, right? So Facebook, Insta, you're on scroll. You're in scroll mode. So you're trying to interrupt the pattern and get an impulse response. Where Google, it's like somebody went there with an intention and they're looking for something and you're able to serve an ad as a result.
And Facebook might be for example, for us, great remarketing tool. Some of our lower price products, our impulse buy products, amazing acquisition, funnel. But but our higher end products, we're trying to bring people into the funnel with a higher AOV product. It's not the best for us.
And you start with so you started with just mattresses. Now you have other bedroom accessory things. You do frames, you do pillows.
So interesting, now 42% of our buyers purchase a non-mattress product.
Wow.
So pretty huge.
Yeah.
And that's been a great path to growth too, right? So we really anchored on the mattresses. We also compete authentically, by the way, in the mattress category, in every mattress category. And that's been a source of growth as well. So because of our delivery, the difference in delivery logistics, because we hand deliver, we can get into different types of product. If you're a bed in a box, it's really difficult. You can't ship a Sleep Number competitor. This doesn't like work, or a real authentic Tempur-Pedic competitor. We can do it all. So we compete in every mattress category now. We started off with one product. So we were a one innerspring mattress company until about 2014. 2016, we added our third. So, it's kind of grown from there and actually rapidly grown. Now we sell bedding, we sell bed frames, we sell bedroom chairs, soon to be bedroom rugs. really anything that can outfit the bedroom. And, part of that was our customers were asking for it. They're like, we love your mattress, but I don't know, where do I buy the sheets? And, we're like referring our business and honestly, we think we really bring authentic, high value, natural product to the customer whenever possible, and super high quality product. And, we want to just be part of that customer's entire bedding experience and bedroom experience.
Sure. I think that, for everybody hits these marks at different points in revenue, and it depends on the industry and how they operate. But, and you mentioned this in the beginning, but there's, I think, this persistent risk of shiny object syndrome and trying to do too much. And you started by saying that you were basically niche down with your ads to make sure that you were super efficient in your ads. When you add extra products, it can become chaotic and it can turn into trying to do too much. At what point in your growth was it time to say, hey, we're going to add extra, we're going to get out of mattresses? Because you talked about, 14, which is what, 2 years in, or did you launch in 12?
2011.
11. So 3 years in, and then 4, then 5, you started rolling out different mattresses, different types of mattresses. But that's still very core to what you were doing.
Right.
At what point did you say it's okay to, stretch out a little and manufacture sheets and chairs and the like?
Yeah, that was about 4 years ago. I think every company sort of has its life cycle, and I'm glad we did it when we needed to do it. I've always sort of felt as an entrepreneur that if you throw everything at the wall all at once, you're not leaving much for tomorrow, and you're not leaving a lot of room to learn from it because you're doing too much. There's too much noise in your marketing stack. There's too much noise in terms of trying to figure out, how to allocate resources. So it becomes kind of messy. So this staged approach, I think is something that I've learned. Part of it was limited just in terms of our own size, right? You have to hire people to do things, et cetera. But, and I think it's been absolutely the right approach. We're still really heavily anchored on mattresses. We really view a lot of these other products as amazing products, ancillary products. Now we're starting to sell them. They people are coming into that specific page. But if you go to our front page, you'll still see a pretty mattress centric experience. So we've kind of had an anchor product basically.
Yeah.
And built from there.
Did you feel like you reached a certain level of stability where you could reach out, or did you hit a plateau with revenue, or what was the catalyst there where you were like, okay, rationally, this makes sense for us to sort of split focus and add something new?
I think you're always trying to grow. Regardless. And it's one of those low hanging fruit opportunities for us. Again, selling to existing customers and raising our, not just our, AOV or average order value, but raising our LTV, the lifetime value of the customer is, really, really important, and something that I think, was low hanging fruit for the business in general. So, I'd actually think that, it's not really that distracting. We're not sitting here and putting like our sheets on the front page in the hero image. But it's, definitely part of the purchase cycle now. We'll do email marketing around it. There's part of our front page that's talking about our other product. It's in our navigation header. It's part of when you're purchasing, add-on product, so I think it just at some point makes sense to to get into product that is a natural fit. Growing from like say, for example, if you're these chairs, and you're a cloth chair company, going into leather, pleather might just be a natural, nice extension. Mm-hmm. Eventually you might want to sell that table too, right? It makes sense. The customer's going to buy that table from somewhere. It might as well be you. And the customer, because the mattress is such I think a big purchase and a technical purchase in many ways, the customer, realizes that, they really like this brand, they trust the brand, and they'll probably buy the table because they'll know it's high quality if the chairs are high quality.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the question for me is around like the catalyst of it. Was it just recognition at some quarterly planning meeting where you were like, we could increase LTV by adding a product, and it was okay to do it at that point? Did you hit a plateau, or like, do you remember?
at the end of the day, we're always trying to grow, right? So every single year,
evaluating new things.
Yeah, we're evaluating new things. We're evaluating new things to this day. We're constantly trying to be a better business. That's where stores come in, right? So, I would say in terms of the company's history, in terms of product, it was a single use product. We realized that, now we have a big enough infrastructure to be able to do more than one type of product. Also in terms of, internet marketing, people are searching, they're searching for memory foam mattress. We were just inner spring mattress. So all those people who are typing memory foam mattress, we're not able to cater to them. And, and if they are looking for a memory foam mattress, they come to our site, they're not converting because we're not giving them what they want. Mm-hmm. So we're not only converting a higher ratio of our customers when we add some of these products, particularly in the mattress side, we're also bringing in new customers. People are searching for the term latex mattress or whatever. And so that was kind of a natural progression. And then at some point, I think in every company's kind of history, you want to kind of add some ancillary product just because you do want to make your marketing more efficient. Also, I will say one thing, and I just kind of jogged a little memory here. Because of the competition, AdWords were getting more expensive, right? Mm-hmm. So when we got in the mattress space, I think we were like at less than $3 a click. It was like $2.86 or something, if I remember correctly, for just the keyword mattress. And now, I've always been floating around like $10. So that keyword, and that's just
crazy.
Indicative of the of every acquisition channel, right? I'm just using that one. And so basically, the higher AOV, the higher LTV I have, the better case I have to go and pay a little more money on advertising. So it really helps the business as a whole. Also, I think it's again a natural extension. We're not going out and selling like airplanes or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
No, that makes sense.
But yeah, so it's just a natural fit. But I think so after we kind of got done with mattresses, we just thought these are natural categories to kind of service customers who are already looking for product. So,
all right. So kind of
hand in hand.
Granular marketing question here. When you're looking at adding the additional types of mattresses, did the recognition that you were already getting traffic for the other keywords help? Or did you recognize you wanted the other products and then drive the SEO for the traffic?
We were looking at the keywords people were kind of already clicking on and where they were coming. We're seeing that people are coming and clicking on memory foam mattress, and we have no product.
So I think like that's a really, really important distinction for people, because if you're not analyzing your current traffic, you don't know that stuff.
100%.
So like at Easy Pay Direct, we get some crazy searches that we rank for, right? But in some of them aren't what we offer at all, right? They're totally out of alignment with the product set that we have, but some of them are dead on. We just don't serve that customer right away. And I think, you mentioned this relative to bedding. Like at some point you're like, oh, okay, well go here for bedding. And then you're like, What am I doing? We should just sell them the bedding. But I like the analysis of that. So that's really good to know. I think that's a good insight. So when I first met you, we were talking about Saatva, and you were talking about the launch into retail. And I think that I want you to tell me kind of how you got into it and talk about that, because you seem to, at least from what I've read and seen from the outside and how we started this, it was direct to consumer, right? And it was online, buy the product, we'll fulfill it, and sort of quote unquote cut out the middleman, get the retail experience out of there. It's just extra overhead. But your addition of retail, you're going hard right now. You said 8 stores a year that you're opening, and you are doing that because it was a very profitable addition. So how did it start?
We kind of again had a realization. I mean, it's really interesting to kind of grow a company that started off from nothing, right? And so we're always again evaluating opportunities and thinking like entrepreneurs. And when we were realizing how much we were spending in a given market, and basically 2/3 of customers are not basically accessible to us.
Because 2/3 are not
going to buy online. So we realized that you're spending X amount. Say I'm spending $2 million in a given market on advertising, and basically 1 point something million dollars is pretty much wasted. And it's really hard to decipher between a customer who needs to try out the product and who doesn't. So we wanted to kind of take advantage of that, and we felt like retail was the way to go. And it's been a resounding success. I think our in New York in particular. And we're at a great place in New York too. It's in Midtown, but we're right next to one of the largest mattress firms in the country. We love competition. That's why having a great product is so important. The same philosophy, like we want to go neck and neck because we think the product is awesome against anyone. So we welcome being around competition, but it's one of the highest grossing mattress stores, I think, in the world. North of 10 million in annual revenue for one store. Those are out of 3,300 square feet. I mean, it's
amazing.
Borderline Apple numbers.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty fantastic. And that then extends to kind of a number of markets. We just we're growing our addressable market, and it's been working, and the experience is the same experience that we get in store. Online. So a luxury experience, a beautiful experience. But instead of it looks like our website, lots of screens, very digital technology forward. You can sit there by yourself and do all the research next to each individual product, et cetera. But you get to kind of sleep and lay on it. And our stores convert well north of 50% every single customer who comes in, which is shocking.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, it's hard to walk in to kind of a Saatva store and go somewhere else and buy. We really do have we have a product, I think, that fits kind of a best in class model for kind of in every category. And the price point is, beyond fair and beyond competitive. And the experience is just, better. So it's like you're walking into like a Mercedes dealership instead of walking into a used car lot. It's just a different experience.
Wow. Yeah. So there's an interesting, I want to talk about the sales side of that, but there's a super interesting element on product, right? And I think we all know the sort of best in class products. And some of them aren't even really debatable. Like you look at what Tesla, and people critique some things about them, but you look at Tesla, you look at Apple, and these big brands that people just know for quality. And similar, I was test driving cars years ago, and the first Tesla I got was a Model 3. And I had just test driven a Maserati, and it was dope. It was a Maserati GT, and like aesthetically, this thing is amazing, right? And I've kind of looked at it my whole life and was like, that's such a cool car. Test drive it, and then I test drive a Model 3, which does not look as cool, right? And it's not as nice interior, et cetera. But holy shit, as a product, it was so much better. And I couldn't, like you said, I couldn't rationally buy anything else. Bought it on the spot. I was like, this is just the thing. 50% conversion in a store has to have a lot to do with the product. How much of it has to do with customer experience and the sales process in there? Do you have salespeople on the floor that are selling them? So you said it's very similar to the website. So
this is why we're such a data-driven, nerdy company. And this is why I love it. And I think it's kind of one of the most fun jobs in the world. I'm actually a professional basketball player, golfer might be more fun, but I'll take it.
I don't know.
I'll take it. Over COVID, we realized something. So our workforce went remote on the customer service CSR side. So customer service reps are as efficient, if not more efficient, working from home. And we have these people in store, and we just had this realization: why not make the people in store national customer service reps? And route any sort of conversations or any phone calls in New York to the person who's actually sitting there in the actual store. Mm-hmm. And so basically, it became kind of a footprint for us. So, as attritions kind of happen naturally out of our main kind of CSR headquarters, we actually have turned our reps in the actual individual stores into national customer service reps. So they're answering phone calls. They're also taking orders and chatting with customers, et cetera. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to have, more staff in store. So it's not just like one person sitting there. You walk into a place where it's humming, there's 6 or 7 people in there, but they're all working. It also allows us to handle ups and downs in terms of traffic in store. So, sometimes you have a lot more traffic coming in. Well, we have 6 or 7 people to cater to it. But when we have 0 people in the store, they're working too. So much more efficient, something that, Mattress Room or some of our competitors just never do. And that's why I think, the customer gets the benefit of all of that, in terms of value.
Dude, that's great. I know, I know the last time I bought a mattress, which by the way, for most of humanity, like how often do you buy a mattress? Well, you probably know this stat. How often do you buy a mattress?
It's depending on who you are, like 8 years.
Okay, 8 years, right. So, which is probably the last
7
time I bought a mattress.
Yeah.
Was probably when I moved to Austin 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I remember there's, one person in the store, nobody else is in the store. They're not doing anything and they're kind of waiting, sitting in the corner, waiting to pounce on me when I get in. Generally an uncomfortable scenario. And you are completely right when you get the buzz of going into a place and you're like, oh, I'm free to do my own thing. Things are busy and this is an important place. People are busy here. What are they doing? I love doubling up resources like that. That's really cool. Did you rehire to get those people or did you try to get the people from home to go into a store?
So, because we're national, we're actually hiring locally everywhere.
Yeah.
Some of the people in our New York location, for example, are customer service reps who were in New York. New York is a pretty big footprint for us. So we will be at kind of 4 stores, or we call them viewing rooms, in the area within the next year. So we'll have a New Jersey, a Long Island, and 2 in Manhattan. And so some of those people are coming in there. And then, with customer service, there's always attrition. So, we might lose a few people. We just won't, rehire in our main headquarters. And we just launched Portland. We have 6 new people in Portland, for example. So it's pretty cool. And then the nice thing about it too is, when you pick up the phone and you're routed to someone in Portland, they'll say, "Hey, this is Michelle. Come into the store. I'm down the street." That also helps also.
So when we first started talking about it, when I first met you, I think I probably even said this. I was like, I hate the idea of retail. You have to be there. There's a physical thing going on. You have to have management and oversight. And I think for me, which by the way, for me, I'm also saying that as a person that really wants a physical office. I like the energy in the office. I like the oversight of a physical office. I like building that. But when you're distributed like that, you went from remote D2C to having these physical locations. How did you execute management in that transition? And how many stores did you launch at once? Was it 1 and you had 1 manager you put in? Did one of you as the founders go there? Did you have leadership go there? How did you execute that initially?
So this is the great thing, I think, of having a diverse founding team. Ron's background's in retail. And so Ron has done retail. We hired a VP of retail who really has a construction architecture, construction management background. We just kind of put it together. So Ron brought kind of, people that he knew. So we had a head of sales who kind of put together the whole plan around, hiring and managing, and training, employees. And, it kind of was a natural extension, believe it or not. And the other thing too is we're a little fortunate, right? Because we're not dealing with a lot of inventory. So, when someone comes into, one of our locations, they're still buying online. They're just buying there, but everything's getting shipped to them. We're not carrying anything. So I think that's made it a lot easier too. I think when retail is a lot harder. For example, you're selling shirts or something, inventory management is a huge thing, seasonal style, all of those things end up making it a lot more convoluted. For us, it's a pretty simple experience. It's much more, analogous to what you get at a Tesla, showroom. So we get to kind of focus a little more on the stuff that Tesla gets to focus on, really cool screens, technology, making the customer experience better, all of that. So I think we're just a little fortunate. So, there's a benefit in that regard to being in a high AOV kind of category where we're not just like having to do, tons and tons of, inventory and volume.
How does the high AOV play into that?
Just less people coming in. So
Got
I've
it.
always equated,
Lower velocity.
Yeah. So, there's just, you need a lot more people to manage. If you're a Banana Republic or a Gap or something, how many salespeople do you need in the store? How much movements? There's just so much velocity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't need the same amount of velocity to kind of hit our numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I want to talk about kind of marketing today and how it's changed. But first, what's the general marketing mix? So we've talked about Google AdWords as a dominant source. We've also talked SEO. What's the distribution of where people come from?
It's a combination of just search based. So that's when I say Google AdWords, I also mean Bing. I also kind of mean display to some extent. The Google and Bing, whatever ecosystems. We also have, publishers, like we're on Wirecutter. There's affiliates that are out there. That's things like that. Reviewers. There's, we're everywhere. We try to be everywhere for the considered purchase funnel. Outside of that, we do, in terms of brand awareness, YouTube, we do connected TV. So we will advertise in certain shows. We do it. Now we're doing a lot in terms of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing with podcasts is a little bit like the Wild West, but if you find the right podcast to the right audience, it's a really great awareness generator. So, I think NPR has been huge for us. So we're on NPR in a big way. We're also on some kind of random podcasts that have just been really, really effective for us. Tom Segura's Your Mom's House, which is one of our originals. So, and that's the kind of podcasts are funny. So Tom's a customer, bought from us, and when he was just starting out, reached out and asked if he wanted to sponsor his podcast. He loved the product, and this is like circa 2000. Was it 13 or 14? So this is before he got pretty big, and we've had this relationship with him since. He came and had this huge show, like
Amazing.
Lions Around the Block, and there we are, just like having drinks with him after the show, and like we're the Mattress people, and we're hanging out with Tom, but it is what it is. So we're in some pretty cool places in terms of podcasts. So. We have a more diverse mix than we used to. And part of that is also brand awareness, right? So I think if you this is why at every stage of marketing, I think things need to change. But if you're, at our stage, so you get to the in-market customer, we try to be everywhere the in-market customer is. Of course, we miss some people, we're not going overboard on it, but it's a big foundation for us. But we also do want to generate brand awareness. And I think that's culturally important. And I think there are a lot of people who we want to convert from people who are thinking to people who are in market and shopping. And we do that now too. So, our brand awareness has risen pretty significantly, but still super small numbers, right? You can't reach the whole world, but, overall, I think, Saatva is now, 4% or so of the mattress market, and our brand awareness is, higher than that. So it's,
how big were you before you decided brand awareness was something you wanted to focus on?
Like everything else, we've like eased into it.
Yeah.
So everything has been tested. I think the one thing about our company is, we try to be smart and lean with everything we do and make sure that before we press the gas, it's really well thought out. So some of the podcast stuff, we kind of did a little one-offy, but we had a code. We saw that, people are coming through those channels. And we've done geo testing, so we've done brand awareness tests in certain markets, tried to see what the overall lift is. Just, even if it's more expensive, just like do TV, for example, in a given market, we've done it just to see if there's actual lift. And so, we've kind of slowly kind of gotten more and more into it.
What was the beginning though? So like, when were you like, hey, we want to do anything with brand? Because for a lot of people, I think, like you said earlier, a lot of people try to do everything at once, and that leaves nothing for later, and it impacts your learning.
Yeah.
Right. And then the flip side of that is going hard with one channel and just saying, I'm only going to drive this one channel. But you went up the numbers pretty quickly. Did you wait? So it was year 4, you were at 28 million. What
year 5, 81. That was it.
Say that again?
Year 5 was 81.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So year 4 was 28. Year 5 was 81.
Yeah.
Wild. And so
year 6 was like 160.
That's bananas, man. So you could quickly rationalize other channels. At what point did you? At what point did you say, hey, let me dip my toe in brand?
I also think at some point, the number of people who are in market, right? It starts to get more expensive. It's drying up. And we realize we want to, dip our toe in brand. We also have, we're increasing simultaneously our AOV, our LTV, all of these things are happening. So the spend becomes slightly more effective. And we start testing, regionally, things like that, just to make sure that we're not wasting spend, to just make sure that it coincides pretty well with some of those lifts in terms of, our own conversion. We just dipped our toe in it, and I think it's still not a majority of our spend.
Sure.
It's something that we take very carefully and very seriously. We just want to make sure that, we're visible. So I don't think brand awareness will ever be a majority of our spend. And I think a lot of companies have really flailed out by focusing exclusively on it. And I would even consider some of, anything that's not conversion driven and ROI driven is, and as a strict return on ad spend, I'd almost call brand awareness. And I think it's important for growing brands at some point in their lifespan to try to evangelize the fact that they're around. Again, we've been disciplined in our, and maybe it's to a negative effect. I mean, we had a couple brands that are in our, in our competitive sphere that spend a lot on brand awareness. Purple and Casper, a lot more people know of Purple and Casper than they know of us. We're profitable. We're roughly equally sized to those two. We actually have better value to our customers. So our COGS, so our cost of goods sold, is closer to what the customer ends up getting. So our margins are actually a little maybe lower than Purple or Casper. We're not blowing like 40% of our dollars on marketing like they are. So we can provide more value to customers. So our approach, and I don't think it's the only approach, has been slowly but surely and steadily grow brand awareness as we become a bigger ship, but still kind of focus on what's gotten us here.
Yeah, so I heard two things there. One is your brand awareness is important at some scale and size and in general, but you are still looking for a direct response, right? Buy right now. And you mentioned earlier that and especially you mentioned this earlier, but with an 8-year cycle for purchase for most people, they're only buying once every 8 years. You want to catch them when they want to buy, right? So the brand awareness isn't necessarily when they want to buy. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 100%. And also the nice thing about brand awareness, I think at this point, is because we have more product, right? We have a higher chance of converting also.
Right.
Imagine if we just had one product and we're spending all this money on brand awareness, it's tougher. Now people come to our website and they might not buy the mattress, they might buy the sheets.
Yep. And the sheets and pillows are more frequent purchases.
Right.
The other thing you said though that hit me, and this is what I was driving at, was that you had hit, I can't remember the language you used, but ads stopped converting the same way. And you said something like it started to fizzle out, and that's when you started to look at other things. So, and that was what I was trying to figure out was, what was the catalyst? And it sounds like you hit a point where you're driving ads, everything's going, you're growing like crazy, right? You're quadrupling year over year at a high number. And through that, not all ads are going to work the same way. And as they start to not convert as well, you start to look at, hey, what else do we spend money on, or how else do we grow? And that was sort of the introduction of the first part of brand.
That and more product. So adding product, I think, was part of that. And it kind of works simultaneously with some of the brand spend as well, right? So let's continue to let's generate new customers instead of just absorbing customers that are purely in market. So I think that was part of the calculus. And I think
through new product,
just in terms of brand spending on brand.
Got it.
Then that coinciding with more product to make sure that if we're spending on a less efficient advertising medium, hopefully we have a higher conversion rate because we're offering more to anyone coming in, right? So say for example, I'm using memory foam a lot, but say for example, someone sees us, might be interested in a mattress on a TV commercial or whatever. And if we don't have the product that's there that they want, we're not going to sell. And that makes that a less efficient, spend of advertising dollars for us. So I think everything kind of coincides. I've always felt like, growing one of some of these businesses is almost like rock climbing. You kind of need your hand to lift your foot, and that then raises your other hand. There's a lot of symbiotic things that are kind of going on. And so you kind of have to do a few things at once. And I think, raising conversion rate, raising average order value are two core components to building growth and success. And I think, then adapting your marketing stack to take a little more advantage after you see some lift in those areas is kind of been our story.
Easier said than done for a lot of people, I think.
Probably. And every category is so different. I think, again, it's kind of alluded to earlier, there's no one size fits all. And different companies have different areas that can improve conversion. For example, I think, I'll go to these e-tail conferences or whatever, and e-commerce conferences, and vendors will try to sell me on personalization. And, I have nothing there. There's not a lot of personalized messaging that's going on in, a mattress purchase. I mean, a little bit, but not enough to really justify that. Personalization is something that, could really help a t-shirt company. And giving the customer what they want is huge. And so, every kind of organization, every kind of e-commerce company, I think, has their own levers that they can press.
So fast forwarding to today, we're in May of 2023. How has the shift in AI impacted how you're marketing right now?
So AI, I think, is interesting. And I think that we're just kind of honestly at the baby zone of AI. I mean, if I look at where, there's a lot of conversation about AI, and we were utilizing it to some degree of everything from, some assistant, like Google in general, machine learning on AdWords is AI. Mm-hmm. We were using a chat bot to kind of pre-filter customers. I was so sorry to chat with customers. It was just not a smartest chat bot, kind of a dumb AI, I guess.
Yeah.
And all those areas are just getting better, right? So everything from, media mix AI to chatbots, to tools to help developers, to tools to help our creative team. Everything is just getting better and better. And I think, we're just getting more and more efficient. And people's time and energy is better spent. So we're looking at, the latest and greatest. Right now, I think it's a lot of AI so far has been helping us again with things that are already issues that we're already dealing with, stuff we run GitHub for the developers, that those commands are become a lot easier. I think, again, the chatbots are getting smarter and we're exploring some new ones there. So just getting better at what we do. And I would also say one thing back to branding. I'm sorry to go back, take a back turn.
No, it's perfect.
But one thing that we also really did and I think was a massive improvement in our company's history, and I think generated a lot of the improvement. I forgot to kind of mention it is we not only invested in brand externally as an acquisition source, we actually also invested a lot in brand in terms of our experience and like our photography, the quality of the website, the web experience. So, if you go and look at Saatva in 2010, which I do sometimes, God, I was shocked we sold anything. I mean, great product was the same, amazing product, but it was wonky looking. It looked okay. And then we saw kind of a dramatic increase in revenue when we did a redesign. In like 2013 to 2014 was a redesign era for us. And by 2017, 18, another kind of growth, 19, all of that, another big growth area for us was really also kind of elevating brand. So, and some of our brand photography is better than it's ever been. Our creative design is better than it's ever been. When you go to our website, it's beautiful now. It's just so different than the way it used to be. So we've also just invested a lot in increasing our conversion rate by just having a better experience. And shockingly, whilst a lot of the DTC brands are doing the same thing, some of the traditional brands are still not doing it. And, you go on their websites and it's, It looks like it's $19.99.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
They're selling in spite of themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was assessing in banks recently, and my world is banking, right? I spend a ton of time dealing with banks, and I generally speaking prefer smaller institutions because they're nimble. They can move quicker. Certainly in light of our current situation and the economy and banks collapsing and whatever, you have to question that. But I was looking at some of the larger institutions out there, like top 20, and their tech is terrible. And they think that it's good. They're like, it does these things, but even if it does the things, the user experience is awful. The UI is awful. And it looks like it's $19.99.
Yeah. And they're doing everything wrong. And it's interesting. We had, I guess I speak pretty candidly here.
Yeah.
There was some concern that kind of some of the traditional players were creating their own brands, kind of the direct-to-consumer sub-brands. Tempur-Pedic did one called Cocoon. I think Mattress did one called Tomorrow. And I remember telling Ron, my co-founder, that every time one of these brands came out, I was like, it's a fly-by-night. They're going to spend a ton of money on TV, not have a marketing stack. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. You heard a lot of buzz for like 3 months, so the businesses just never figured it out as expected. And, I don't think you even hear, I don't know if they're around anymore.
Yeah, man. I think that's a really good realization for entrepreneurs. It is rarely the large institutions that break the mold and make something happen with innovation. It's more commonly a disruptor, right? A small business that figures it out and does it a different way.
Yeah, we have a great moat just because it's very, very difficult for someone to create the infrastructure that we've created to hand deliver products. So much easier to create a bed in a box type of company and just drop ship via FedEx. So I think that's been one thing that's protecting us from our competition on the DTC side. Is there's one Saatva and there's 100 of the other guys. So we're really, really distinct, and that's been a really great thing about the way that we built things. Didn't always love it. Building logistics software and all of that was not fun. Launching regionally when I'm sleeping on a futon or whatever is not fun. But at the end of the day, it really, really, I think, created a differentiated business with a strong moat and protected us in a major way. But the established brands, they're just never have been able to authentically kind of enter the category.
I love it. All right, couple quick questions. So, you now have a $400+ million company. What are some of the best things that you've done from a marketing perspective along the way?
Wow, we've kind of got, I think we've been highly targeted. I think that's a huge thing. So for example, when we launch a new store, in a given market, we have an ad budget that's raised because we know the conversion rate's higher. So to this day, we're always trying to do smart things. We're not just launching them and just letting them kind of float around. Like we're actually taking advantage of the increase in conversion rate in the higher addressable market in a given area. So we've always, I think, been very, very nimble as opportunities have changed and developed. If we launch a new product at a lower price point, a weighted blanket or whatever, we'll view that differently in terms of acquisition than the way that we look at selling a mattress. So I think having a nimble company that is really evaluating every opportunity individually has been huge. I think investing on beautiful photography, really showcasing the brand to customers who don't have a store has been an important area of growth for us. And I think it's tell their story. I think telling your story is huge, and I think now we do a really good job of telling our story, and that's been resonating. So those are, I think, being targeted, having a great brand, and testing and experimenting, I think has been absolutely important. So we didn't just run out and just spend a ton of money on brand awareness, like the Tempur-Pedic did on their Cocoon mattress, right? We regionally we evaluated it to see if it would work, and still that kind of dictated a little bit of how we would spend it. Where would we spend it? What type of program do we want to spend on? Are we buying remnant inventory? All of those things. What channels? Where are we effective? So we asked those questions. We're not just sitting there writing checks and hoping that it works. So we've just been a disciplined company, I think. And I think that's what happens when you're a bootstrap company. You're just, you're always focused on being a little scrappy and being smart and detail oriented.
Well, I can tell you from, tens of thousands of companies that come through our doors that lots of bootstrap companies do not operate that way.
Yeah.
So credit to you for operating that way, specifically as you scale. So the flip side of that, what are some of the worst things that you've done from a marketing perspective? What's a big learning lesson that you had and you said, shit, I'm not going to do that again if I launch a new company?
I think the worst thing we did is we were a little slow with our PR. So I think, we were doing great work early. We were actually, for the most part, the first in category. And we let someone else, take that flag. So we're like I still hear like, oh, you guys are just like Casper. And a lot of that had to do with a lot of their early marketing and a lot of their money that they spend on brand awareness. But I do think we could have planted a flag a little bit from a PR perspective. Yeah. A little earlier. Letting people know that we're doing really cool things. We kind of had to catch up to that. It was almost like, you're late to your own party kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
do you want to punch people in the face when they say that?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's just, I literally, it's like every single day.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. And we like I'm like, well, we're about as big, and they're like, what? But right. Yeah, we are, so I think that's probably the, actually bigger, to be honest. I think right now we definitely do more in revenue than they do online for sure.
Yeah.
You can tell a little chip on my shoulder.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But, I think it's necessary. I think that's great, man.
Chips and shoulders. Chip on my shoulders kind of motivated me for
keep
very long.
Yeah,
it keeps you moving, right? Can't get too complacent. But I think that's one thing. I would have gotten the word out a little bit earlier. And I would have done the redesigns earlier too. I think, that's such a little investment. Now it's so easy with Shopify and, some of the templated tools are out there to build a really beautiful website. But there are a lot of, I think, companies that are operating with, they could do some tweaking, and I think it would have a dramatic input on their, effect on their business. And, for some reason it's not happening.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, speaking from my experience, prioritization with a lean team makes some of those things difficult. And I think that one of the benefits of being able to listen to you talk about your experience is to hear what you did that worked, right?
Yeah.
And to know, hey, prioritizing redesign worked for us, right? Listening to the numbers and doing a small data set for a test worked for us to figure out what we should deploy time into.
And I think just, to that note, like, just for example, a creative test, you want to change a new hero image, viewing it as a test, it's not, or even just doing it to a subset of customers, right? I think a lot of legacy brands are afraid of testing. They think that if, one person in, whatever, Minnesota sees a different ad or something, that it's going to, cause some havoc. And it's just not the case. I think successful companies get that you can be nimble, throw some stuff out there, test it, see if it works. And if it works, scale it upwards. So everything is like a little entrepreneurial project in its own right. A lot of companies are, not built that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Well, it's great to get some insight. I've got a bunch of other questions, but I want to be respectful of time here too. Where do you want to point people? If people want to find out more about Ricky Joshi or Saatva, where do they go?
Just go online and don't click on the AdWords Saatva that costs money. Just Saatva.com. I'm just joking.
SAATVA.
SAATVA. So Saatva.com. You can add me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Or if you want to Google the story, just type my name, type Saatva.
Or if you're lucky to find a good party in Austin.
Yeah, exactly. The baby on the way. So not as frequently, but still out there.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you carving out time today, man.
Thank you so much. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Love it. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed doing it. I need your help. There are 3 places you can find Beyond a Million. The podcast itself, beyondamillion.com, which has some cool free resources, including a free course. And we finally launched the Beyond a Million YouTube channel. I would love it if you would go there and subscribe. And if you don't want to, you still would probably enjoy seeing the visual content. Check it out, youtube.com/@Beyond a Million.